Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Thursday talk. And today we're going to be talking about dismantling the ego by embracing your inner child. I had to write that down because it's a long one. Yeah, we're talking about the ego today and the inner child, which is, if we can find that, it's easier to manifest. So, first, I'm just going to go through what the ego is and how we can understand it better, I guess, is what I'm trying to get to. So, the ego is I or me, it's your identity, okay? It is self serving, it seeks outer recognition, it seeks validation from outside sources in order to make it exist, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like to give it existence. It seeks to preserve self. It feels lack. It is constantly looking outwards. It's a created version of self. So it's not your true self. It's this added layer. It's like an onion, we build up these layers on top of our soul, and those layers represent the ego. It labels self and others, so it likes to put labels on things. It likes to, actually define what people are and who they are themselves, or who you are. Like, everyone has an ego. The ego is past and future orientated. It tends to hold a lot of resentment. It sees life as a competition. It looks outwards. It likes to judge. It is bound by rules. It likes to control. It causes pain. It is mortal. It is separation, and it is fear-based. So yeah, the ego is something that we all have. First of all, absolutely everybody has the ego, and many people like to approach the ego in different ways. Like, so many people want to kill their ego, like have ego debt. But once we're living a life, once we're alive, it's not possible to kill it. And to view it like that is, it's almost like, it's doing something that isn't really possible. It's just, again, that could be the ego talking. I want that to be gone. But instead of like trying to get rid of something that you can't get rid of, it's better to learn to work with it and to understand it. Because the ego isn't necessarily your enemy, right? Even though a lot of people live through it, and they live so through it that it can control their entire existence and how they put themselves out there. The ego is essentially a protection mechanism. It's there to protect you. It's not there to make your life more difficult, but because we have big brains, because we're human, right? We overthink things. We overthink a lot of things. We hold on to a lot of things. We build up these layers of protection, that we let that side of us, or many of us anyway, take the controls, take the reins, and live through that. Whereas it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that. Even I succumb to my ego sometimes. With, let's say, sometimes needing to be right. needing to be heard, and then I take a step back and say, oh, wait a second, is that my ego talking, or is that me talking? You know, like my true self. And there is a separation, there is a difference. So like there's your ego, and then there's your soul. There's your higher self. Whereas your ego looks at I, it looks at me, like self-preservation. Me, I'm the most important thing, right? Your soul, your higher self looks at we. We are we are one. We look to serve other people, whereas the ego looks to serve itself. The ego sees itself as separate to everybody else. The ego compartmentalizes itself so that it's unique, it's special. It puts itself under a label to show its uniqueness, its specialness, right? And that's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. I've done that myself. Everybody does that to some extent. But when you remove yourself, when the ego likes to remove and protect, it's protecting so much that you're essentially living behind it rather than to your true self. And your true self comes out if you allow it, if you kind of recognize it. So what is your true self? What is your higher self? What's your soul? Your soul is authentic. It's free from the conditioning that has been added over years of dealing with various different social situations, whether it be home life with your family, whether it be in school with different teachers, different mentors, with different school children, with different friends, and then having to try and fit in and having to try to be liked. Your soul self, your authentic self, doesn't seek to be liked. It just is. It just goes into, this is what I am, and I am pure, right? It's labelless. It doesn't need a label to define it because it just is. It's now orientated. It doesn't look at or worry about past events or future events. It's just focused on the moment, on now, on each and every moment that passes. That's where it's focused. It's here where your soul is, where you can connect with. It looks inwards, so it's just focusing on the emotions of how it can feel good. What makes it raise up. It's not focused too much on the outside of what can fulfill it. It looks inwards and into the heart of what can, fill it from the inside rather than the outside. It doesn't need outside approval. The only approval it needs is for it to be acknowledged by yourself. It has acceptance, so it accepts the world around it. It accepts itself as it is. So it's accepting of who you are fully. If you can see your higher self as like your best friend, right, that accepts you fully, you don't have to put on any masks, you don't have to act a certain way for other people. You are just you. You can be you for yourself. Sees life as a gift rather than seeing it as a maze or something that is a struggle. Your soul, your higher self, enjoys the journey. So each and every journey is an opportunity to feel more alive. It's curious about the world around it. It feels abundant. It is abundance. It is wisdom. It is immortal. It is unity. And what I mean by unity is that oneness with everybody else. Rather than seeing itself as separate and everyone as scary or a threat, it sees everyone as an opportunity to learn, to be connected. We are connected. We are one, and to learn from those people and to experience life as a beautiful thing rather than a threatening thing. The soul and the higher self causes healing. Connecting with your soul and higher self causes you to be able to heal. It creates healing, right? It likes to play. It is love. It doesn't judge. It's free, right? And that, what I just mentioned there, are also all kind of, I would say, childhood attributes. That's how a child is. Child, like, is a very curious creature. Doesn't have any conditioning, doesn't have any labels until they're added from external sources. And that's what we need to connect back with in order to connect with ourselves, with our true selves, with our true nature, is to connect back to our higher selves. And that connects also back to our inner child. And how do we do that, you might ask? You know, because like the ego is a creation over time. And it's built up by so many things. Yeah, it can be hard. Like it can create anxiety. Like it's led by fear, right? So how do we remove ourselves from that? If over time all of these things have been added on and has become part of us, but it, like, you might see it as this is me now, I cannot change, right? But essentially you're not changing. You're being what you originally were. And you're acknowledging that you were something and you had changed, you know, you had changed into something else, and you're just going back to the starting point of what you were before these changes came in. What we all were is just pure, innocent, not out to hurt anybody. Yeah, because like narcissism, for instance, right? It's a bit of an ironic thing because it someone that's fully in their ego and not really connected with their higher selves are more likely to be narcissists who live fully in their ego. Whereas empaths would be more connected to their higher selves, way more, but would experience parts of the ego that would make them afraid, that would, essentially affect their being and bring them into a state of anxiety and fear and even trauma. Like the ego when it's at its pure state, when it's that's probably the wrong term, when it's, let's say, full on, it creates pain, it creates trauma. So experiencing that from different people and being an empath, right? It creates that trauma on the empath because it's just too much. Because empaths are essentially so connected to their higher selves, more so than narcissists. Narcissists are completely connected to their ego, and some might not even realize that they are, especially covert narcissists. Many covert narcissists, for instance, might actually believe that they're empaths and not be at all, which is a strange one. It's ironic, but also what's ironic is that many narcissists, they show childlike features as well, like in their mood swings and not being able to take someone saying no to them, with their rages and stuff like that. It's like their ego is damaged, so much so their sense of identity, that it's like the dark side of their inner child is what comes out, the damaged child, because they are, like, they do act very childish, but the wrong part of childish, the other side of it. And in order to connect with our inner child, it's about releasing those layers of ego that have built up from experiences, and learning to just say, oh, this doesn't serve me anymore. Does it make me happy? How happy does it make me? Or does it bring conflict into my life? Conflict with myself? Does it make me feel depressed all the time by overthinking? Does it cause conflict with other people and just make me feel not so good about myself? The easiest way to do that, the easiest way to disconnect or dismantle your ego, is to go back to the source, as I said. What you were before you've learned all of these things, because these are learned. These are what have attached onto you from society, right? And that's to go back to your childish nature of play. Simply having fun. Doing what you used to do as a child that made you really happy before the conditioning came into force. So if you liked, I don't know, like laying down on the grass simply looking at the clouds, rolling down a hill with your family or whoever, right, when you were a child, playing with sand, being curious about it, playing with water, swinging from a tree, climbing a tree, being curious about what's at the top of the tree, not being afraid of what might happen, but actually just being curious and trying it. And as children as well, we would, if we fell, if we started, let's say, walking, if we fell, we just get up and continue, instead of sitting there and licking the wound and worrying about it. A child will just get up and move and not let that falling become a trauma and be part of the ego, because that's what happens. Trauma is going to add on to the ego. It's, this happened to me, and that just stays. Instead of just shaking it off, letting it go, and simply allowing yourself to move on from it, to let it go. That's what kids do. Like, getting into child mode is the most amazing experience. It is the most amazing experience because it's so simple, right? It is incredibly simple. It's like accepting that we're all children. And that was probably like the best time of our lives was when we were children. We didn't have, like, our only attachments were our parents, right? That was it. Didn't have to worry about, let's say, relationships or even friendships too much. We're just happy to be around people and just trying different things. Sticking our hands in mud or sticking our hands in paint and just experimenting with it. And that's it, experimenting as a child. Many different things and not knowing, not even knowing where we were going. Because that was kind of was someone else in control of that. That was like our parents in control of that. We had no idea where we were going. We were just led to a place, right? Whatever, up for it that day, yeah, do that, splashing in a puddle, great, and just enjoying it in the moment. Yeah, really connecting with that, connecting with that childlike level of curiosity and just being in the moment and not worrying about what might happen in the future or thinking about the past. I never thought about the past. I don't know about you. As a kid, I just moved along with it. Went out to kick a football, just went on little adventures. Was curious about what was over a fence or in a field. Used my imagination along with other kids to create forts, to to build things, whatever we felt like, to create games and just do it, rather than overthinking the worst case scenario of what might happen. Yeah. And laughing a lot. Being able to laugh. Or cry and then just moving on from it. Connecting with that, right? Connecting with that nature is connecting with your higher self. And if you can do that as an adult, instead of worrying about what other people might think of you, that's your ego talking if you do, to just do it and allow yourself to have fun doing it, enjoying the process of being a child again, rather than trying to get I guess validation for it or whatever. You're doing it for you. You're actually healing yourself by doing that. And in doing that, you're doing so many things at once. You're connecting with your true nature. You're connecting with your true self. Your true self is a child at heart. It's what connects you back to source. Is this childlike curiosity, childlike nature. It's being kind to yourself, being kind to others. It's you have everything within you to connect back with that. And that's what can help you to manifest as well. People say that they want happiness, right? But they might not know what happiness is. And if you look throughout your entire life, where were your most happy years? And many people might not even recognize that those happiest years might have been when you were a child, when you didn't have any responsibilities, where you didn't worry about what people might have thought of you. You just were. You were in the moment of just expressing your emotions as a child and trying different things as a child and just having childlike wonder about the world around you. Like, the world could have been so magical when you're a child. It is. And how can, like, what you want to do is to bring that into now. Bring those feelings into now and recreate it. Now, how can you recreate it into now? What would the child version of you like to do now? And try those things as you would if you were a child again. Now, let's say, to think about it in another way to kind of shift the perspective on it. What if you, let's say, went back with all of your knowledge now to when you were a kid, right? How would you live it? You'd probably do the same things you're doing now, possibly as an adult, right? But let's say if it was the other way around, where it was your child self going forward into the future to where you are now and replacing your consciousness, they'd probably approach it in a completely different way than you do. You know, even going, let's say, to the movie Big, do you remember that? With Tom Hanks? Where, it's the child that goes forward into the, well, he doesn't go forward into the future, but it's his body changes and he's an adult all of a sudden, but he has the child heart, and he lives this amazing life because he's just being pure with himself. I highly recommend that you watch that movie. But if you want happiness is something that we all know. It's pure to ourselves. You have to know how to find it and rediscover something that is already there. And that's your inner child. Bring that out to now. Bring that out to today. And you will discover what real happiness is. Like, you will find that if you look at the real happy people, they're just like laughing all the time. They're, just happy to be alive. They love every single moment with their friends and their families and stuff like that, and they're just a big ball of joy. That's them connecting with their inner child. That's the pure part of ourselves, and bringing that into now. You can have happiness. You can have everything that you want. The answer is inside yourself. So, like, blocking it with the ego is you suppressing your happiness. You're just adding fear onto it, resentment, maybe even hatred, depressive cycles, anxiety, worry, and wanting to control everything. Even though we can't really control everything, all we can do is control ourselves. Trying to control other things is pointless. It's like trying to control, a wave out in the ocean. You can't. That's nature. You can't control nature. There's too much of it. So why try? Instead, look within. Look at yourself and see how you can, let's say, not really control yourself, but let yourself be free. And that's where you'll find your happiness. So, okay. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you learned a little bit. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to send me like a message or whatever, or you could disagree with me completely. That's absolutely fine. So I have a course. It is amazing. I put a lot of work into it. It touches on this stuff, but it also touches on many other different aspects around coaching and spirituality and getting to know yourself and connecting with yourself, but also knowing how to manifest really well and to bring in the type of life that you actually want and truly desire and you absolutely deserve. You absolutely deserve. Everybody deserves happiness and abundance and to have everything that they want in their lives. That is called the abundant mindset. It's on my website, themanifestationcoaches.com. You can check it out there. I'm going to put a link below this video as well where you can find out a bit more about it and see how it could work for you. I also do, on top of that, there's affiliate membership. So if you feel that that's the right course for you, that can change your life, and it absolutely can. The affiliate membership allows you to make money from it. So if you recommend people, you get 20% commission, which is very generous of us, but I think it's important that to share something that works, but also to get something back from it and to give something to you guys. So if you can earn from something that helps you, I think awesome, like everybody wins, right? So thank you for joining me, and have an amazing day and have an amazing week. If you want to know more or have any questions, again, send me a DM and we'll get chatting. All right, so awesome. Take care. Thank you for joining me. Bye bye.